Hi, this is Laurie from To the Trade for Interior Design Community, and I have someone that I am so excited for you to meet, Lee Hershberg. We met a year ago. It feels like forever. I think feel like I've known you forever, and I'm so excited to talk to you today because Design Edge, oh my God, like I have shivers just thinking about what it is going to do for interior designers. But first, Lee, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, Lori, thanks so much for that exuberance and that passion. It's met. You've met your equal, and I'm so grateful that a year ago we were introduced. And I am Lee Hershberg, the founder of Design Edge. We are an invite only, exclusive to the design trade event that travels around the country 2 times a year to different regions to meet the designers where they are. And so your equal on the opposite side, which is had the fortune of knowing these manufacturers for, gosh, it seems like over 20 years now. So I'm able to bring the other half of the equation to your amazing community to help solve what has been so long in need of being solved, which is the gaps between the design community and the manufacturers. So I feel privileged to even be in this position.
I know that you really are too. I've witnessed your relationships with the manufacturers, and you all know me from the interior design world, but he is the me for the manufacturers. Like, they hang out with him and ask him questions, and he solves their problems behind the scenes. And now the two of us are kind of putting our heads together to figure out how can we make a trade show the most ultimate trade show for interior designers that exists in the world. And we're doing that today. We're working together to make sure that that happens. But let's start off with, why did this come to be? How did you decide to make Design Edge?
Thanks so much for asking that. It feels like a very heartwarming story because so many times in life we look back and every point along the way leads us to the now of what our calling is. I was the show director for KBIS, the Kitchen and Bath Industry Show. We worked very closely with NKBA. That was in the early 2000s, but when we were still when the event was still in McCormick Place before it had even gotten as big to be in Orlando and then ultimately in Las Vegas. And so I worked on that leadership team until about 2008. Got to know an amazing set of leaders and owners and senior executives on the kitchen and bath side, and then went to High Point to work ultimately for what is now known as Anmore, managing a lot of the multi-tenant buildings in High Point, affording me the same quality of relationships with the owners and senior executives in all the buildings throughout High Point Market at the luxury level, at the medium to high end, parts of the supply channel. And so that put me in a position where my last stop was with Anmore was in the Las Vegas Design Center at Las Vegas Market on A1 and A2. Gave me a chance to have one-on-one interviews with a lot of the designers in that Southwest and Western region to ask that really basic but powerful, impactful question of, if you could create a design center, what would it look like? What would it be? And that helped parlay into a design center that had kitchen and bath and fabric by the yard and all of the things that a designer needs beyond the furnishings and finishes on a daily basis, and even have designers take up residence in the design center in Las Vegas. So having that culminated, experience after managing KBIS, after working in the leadership team and High Point Market and Las Vegas Market, it gave me an inspiration to engage the manufacturers at a deeper level and say, look, what do you need still? And the manufacturers felt compelled to share, well, where are the rest of the designers out there? We know the ones that we see in High Point, in Atlanta, in Dallas, and in Las Vegas, but where are the rest? We feel like there's so many out there. And wow, did we find out over the last 4.5 years, at least half of the designers aren't going. Not because they don't want to, but they just don't have the time. They need to be billing hours instead of spending, $2 to $5 grand every 6 months going to High Point, or every 12 months going to KBIS. So we developed this concept to bring the designer focused resources on the kitchen and bath and home furnishing side to them. So we're around the country within 5 hours of every design community, over a 3 to 4 year period of time.
I love it. And it really does have that energy. When you walk into a design edge, you feel like it's manageable. I can get through this area. I can actually make real relationships. I can talk to people, and I'm not going to leave it so overwhelmed that I'm in this paralysis area where I have analysis paralysis and I'm not going to get anything done because I just got an inflood of information that I just can't process all of it. And I love moments like that because if you can build in, strong relationships and really strong takeaways, those are the moments when I think that's when action can happen. That's when things can really make change happen for interior designers. And when I originally met you, I want to just say this was really kind of funny because Sarah Daniele from Idoma got on the phone with me and she's like, "You got to meet Lee Hershberg. He's just like you. You guys are going to get along." And we had a call that was, I think, 2 hours.
Yeah, we planned an hour, and it was 2. Yes.
Yes. And so I immediately got off, and we have a small private Facebook group. And those guys have been in the business for many, many years. And so I just went on there and I said, what if a trade show did pretty much everything we discussed? You had the best information about contracts and hot business process and, the best education. And then you also got to talk to senior leadership of brands and have real conversation about what is working, what isn't working, and how you can do better together and how could they could structure what they're doing to better serve you as a designer. Wouldn't that be great? And literally, I got 300 messages from designers immediately. This would be unbelievable. I would never miss a show like this. This is so exactly what we need. And I knew at that moment, because of how experienced that group is, that I had to be involved and I had to work on this because I think that is what that is missing. And I think that there are amazing shows. I love High Point. I love KBiz. I go every year. I think that they're incredibly important for designers, but there are a lot. There are a lot of places to see. You can never see all of it. You can never meet everybody you need to meet. And there are a lot that are not servicing the design trade too. So there's a lot, and not knowing if I'm putting my beginner hat on and going to those shows, I don't know who services designers and who wants to service designers and who doesn't. So
it is overwhelming. I'll tell you, in just channeling your equal on the manufacturer side, just as you went to your council and you had 300 responses, I had a little bit of trepidation in the very beginning of socializing this concept, but I'll tell you, as overwhelmed as you were by your responses, those 300, like, oh my God, absolutely. The manufacturers, just, being your equal on the other side, they've got 2 Atlantas, 2 Dallases, 2 High Points, 2 Vegases, and a KBiz. And my presumption and a little bit of trepidation was, we don't need one more show. But I'll tell you, Laurie, when I socialized the concept out in the vein of this would be invite only, exclusive to the design trade, to find the rest. And then also for the designers that do make it to KBiz, do make it to High Point, but don't get a chance to engage the owner and senior executive, here is that opportunity, not just for the owner and senior designer, but for the junior and associate level designers, because we're in their backyard. And as you said earlier, this is manageable and digestible. You can do it in 5 to 6 hours of the 2 days of the event. We had all the manufacturers. Absolutely, we need this because we're certain that if we can bring the power of what we are now 80 brands, to be in the backyard of these amazing design communities, we are certain as our community of manufacturers that they will come, and we put on our clothes the same way those designers do every day. We just don't get a chance to meet them face to face. So we're going to load up, fly to the region just to engage designers because their business is that important to us. And the people behind the business, understanding where the gaps are in what they need on a firm by firm basis, will help us be our best selves as manufacturers. So it was as equally humbling, kind of excitable reality to know that just like your 300 designers were like, absolutely got to do that. The manufacturers were as vehemently excited and like audaciously, we've got to do this, and we're on board, even though they've got all the shows out there that they already have to.
I know, and it is overwhelming. It's overwhelming, I'm sure, for the manufacturers to have that many shows to support. And and I think that adding another show on is very difficult. But like you said, there are a portion of designers who maybe don't make it to any of these shows because maybe they're moms or maybe they're doing design and they think they've got everything all organized and what they in the product lines that they want to make. But I'm telling you, you can talk. I've talked to designers so many times. I can put a group of 10 designers together for 1 hour, and the takeaways from that hour are always mind blowing because I didn't know you could make money on that. And I didn't know that was a little bit less expensive. And I didn't know I could make more money on that. And what that boils down to is a better, more productive, more viable business. And I love one of the things that I think we both got along so well is that we both are service oriented people. We want the best for the communities that we provide. And we put that out there.
Right.
So, I think that that was one of the things that I liked most about you from day one is that you really get to know those manufacturers. You've been over their house for dinner and you have hung out with them and you are on like know their wives and kids and the personal struggles that they're going on behind the scenes. And so, and I know that from many designers. So, I mean, to treat it with the heart that you treat it with is really remarkable. And I honestly think when you do better. So if you know the backstory, I mean, when you know someone really what their struggles are and what they're dealing with and why their business needs to charge the way it needs to charge. And I really think one of the impactful things I think Design Edge has is that dialogue. And although they can go there for 4, 5, or 6 hours, I would encourage every interior designer of any show that you might find the floor print small, to not, to dedicate those 2 days, get your hotel room, park your butt there, because these are people that you're going to be able to talk to that you could do real business with and have real long-term relationships with by having strategy sessions and learning. Don't pass by the booth looking at a few products and then think that that's it. With those owners and senior leaders there, this is the time to talk about what you like about their design trade program, what you don't like, what do you think could be better, how you think that they could service you as a designer better. What do you think is missing from this relationship?
I'm so glad you said that, Laurie. When I think there's a couple of one-liners that are really impactful here, and one of them is when designers usually think manufacturer, they immediately think product.
Oh yeah.
And with your help, we're wanting to steer that conversation from just thinking product. Of course you need product, but to think of product with emphasis on partner, because the key to these manufacturers being the best version of themselves for each firm out there is to understand, like you said earlier, to really hear and understand the plight of not just the design firms at large, but every single design firm, like mandating every solopreneur or entrepreneur or owner of the firm, no matter how big or how small, obligating them or self-obligating themselves to go to those owners and senior executives and saying vulnerably, this is who I am, this is my firm, these are the number of years I've been in business, and these are the projects that I have, and here are the challenges that I've experienced along the way, either ordering from you directly or ordering from your category.
Right.
What do you have in place from a designer support standpoint to give me the peace of mind that you have my back in all of these gaps that I've experienced either with you or with your category, so that when I know that I'm going to a homeowner advocating, selling, representing your brand manufacturer, that it's not going to be my reputation that is at stake, that is well, the design firm reputation is always at stake, but that it's not going to be vulnerable to being diminished by taking a chance with that brand. because one of the biggest gaps that you and I've talked about a number of times is that with that homeowner, if there's a service failure with that designer, the manufacturer might not even hear about it. That's
Absolutely.
the ultimate tragedy. The designer will just be like, okay, I'm taking the full depth of that damage to my brand personally as a firm, and I'm just going to go shop somewhere else where I can rely on them to have my back. But the biggest tragedy is that manufacturer won't even have to know where they fell down on the job or where they failed that design firm. So we're wanting the design firms and the owners, the senior executives and all levels of the firm to feel like it's their self-selected responsibility to go to that owner, senior executive, say, this is who I am. This is what I need from you. Can you deliver? Because if you can, I will give you a test. I'll give you another test. And then when I feel confident that my brand is safe in your hands, I'll buy deep perhaps for the next few projects. So we're trying to, the partner part of product partner, we're trying to steer the conversation towards. And I think you and I are on the right track doing that.
I do too. And I think that, I remember having that first initial conversation with you, and we talked about, a brand that, that design, the brownie story that I told you about, and how that sometimes it's little tiny things that just, you think that it's not a big deal. And I can tell you there's another brownie story that I got recently. There was a stone manufacturer, and this designer doesn't make money on stone, and they had a really interesting project, and they did $70,000 of stone in one bathroom.
Wow.
Which is insane, right? I mean, that's an insane amount of money to spend on a stone in a bathroom slabs.
Right.
And it was beautiful, and they don't make money on it. They were kind of ribbing their rep that they don't make money on stone, and and this rep mistakenly, I think, said, "Don't worry, we're going to take care of you." And so she was expecting, like, I think at a certain level, she had gotten a cheesecake. So she was expecting something like that, or maybe a gift card, or, something to show the appreciation. And she got a Yeti with the logo of the company on it at the end of this huge, like her biggest project with that material ever. And it's those kinds of things that you're right. Like
it makes you feel like, where's the humanity in humans? Like we're feeling and sensitizing. It's like, what would you give that to your mom after? Like, it's that kind of idea of just kindness, is in such short supply.
Right.
What does it take to go a little bit further and help that individual that you would not have had access to that homeowner and that home feel that much more valued? Is it really that hard to go a little bit further to make sure somebody feels acknowledged and valued, even to the point where you're like, instead of thinking about, forget about the Yeti or the cheesecake or the brown, how about ask that firm, that individual, that human that is running that firm, what they value?
Yeah.
Do they like massages? Do they like, do they go to the stretch? Do they get stretched? Do they get, like, what do they value as a human? What do they need? Is it yoga classes?
Well, I know this particular designer takes all of her team out after an install day for pedicures. That's like her ritual.
How hard would
You know what I mean?
ask that question?
Yeah.
And did God forbid give them all pedicure? Like, this is on us this time. It's fascinating and tragic at the same time.
Well, it's these little things that I think where it's not being fully acknowledged always, that designer is the unpaid sales force for some of these brands.
Amen.
And there's nothing we want more than that relationship to be better. And almost it would have been a better scenario had that rep said, "You know what? I really thank you so much. I wish we had a program that could help you. And I could give you something, but I can't. But I really do appreciate it. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to take a bunch of pictures. And if you need me to record something, I'll do it." I mean, if the rep can.
That acknowledges the
Yeah.
shit instead of, "Oh, I get it. Here's the Yeti."
Here's the Yeti, or, wink, wink, I'm going to get you something great. And then it's like, she was like, Alice, Louis Vuitton bag or something.
Right.
Because like it's those little mistakes And I can tell you that's another example of the owner and senior level manager would never hear that that happened behind closed doors. And maybe that designer is gonna supply that, work with that stone brand again. Maybe they won't. Maybe the next time they'll be like,
There's somebody out there.
it kind of like left me feeling a little unsupported. I felt like a little bit of a slap in the face with that one. So with someone else. And there's 1,000, 100,000 stories like that happen every day between designers and manufacturers. And we really want it from both sides to have more empathy for each other, and that's not going to work just manufacturers, being able to do things a certain way. And we designers stand up and want them to do things our way. It's also, we need to do, maybe I know there are designers out there that maybe don't ship things directly to the client and don't have proper receiver and don't properly go through it. And the client wants to return something, and shipping is tremendously expensive. So if those designers are coming back to the manufacturer and insisting on, shipping it back and getting the new one instead of like trying to mitigate those problems, it costs money for our whole industry, and it causes the rise of goods for everyone. So,
and I think, what perhaps is missing, it just in any relationship, forget about whether it's a professional relationship or not. I think what's missing is genuine interest, a genuine desire, a genuine curiosity, a genuine desire to know and understand, what the mutual plights are of both people, so that both can come together and in that sincere vein of empathy and understand, like you just said earlier, and discovery and curiosity. What do you need as a firm? What do you need as a manufacturer? Where are our needs aligned, and how can we support each other? It starts off that way, and the manufacturers that will win are the ones that have the stamina to maintain, to establish disruptively in a positive way, and maintain that curiosity and investment of energy in the firms, and then check in on a regular basis, make sure that they're delivering and are there if there's a service opportunity or service failure. I mean, it's just, I just see it so very clearly as our mantle of responsibility, mine and yours, is making sure the manufacturers know that their job is to, in neon flashing lights, have these firms know we have your back.
right.
As it's defined individually, firm to firm. And the only way they can know that is if the firm, either leader, owner, or senior designer, or the entire firm, shares what they need. And that is it. So it's a mutual responsibility.
And it's not going to be, this isn't a magic pill that's going to fix every designer manufacturer problem, across the board, but it's the step in the right direction where, to me, it boils down the brands that are coming to your show are brands that are specifically interested in designers. So number one, that is a fact.
Yes.
And then on top of it, so these are the brands that are here to listen. They're sending senior leadership that typically do not get to meet with designers at major shows.
Good point. Yes.
They're listening. Their ears are open. And we're trying to make sure, by having you on and talking to designers all the time about Design Edge, to make sure that time is valuable, so that they are dedicating the time to come is great, but it's only so good as you, the designer listening, to show up and have your questions and ask and tell them the truth and be willing to say the thing, not just, oh, that's a beautiful chair, and oh, it's nice meeting you, and this is great, and have a glass of wine and whatever. But beyond that, to have the real conversation of, I really don't like the way the website's laid out. I think that, the pictures are a little too small and they look a little too blurry. And I've had trouble with with that when I send it to a client to get approval or whatever that might be. I would want you to come. If there's one task I could ask you to do before you come to Design Edge, just go to the websites, go of these brands, go and do a little bit of research, and then come prepared to ask a few questions, and to also tell these brands what you love about how your favorite rep works with you, what kind of marketing materials you like to get, how do you want to be received? How do you want the calls to go through? Or do you work from your home and you'd prefer a rep not stop by? Do you want to just have access to an online concierge phone number? how do you want to work with them better? And you may not win all those battles. They might not have the ability to provide everything we want on our wish list, but I can guarantee that we will be in a better spot globally as an interior design industry in 1 year if we're at least having those conversations. And I really believe it.
Lori, I couldn't re-emphasize, underscore, highlight, bold with that statement. It's two fundamental notions. One is we have to teach people how to treat us. And that's one kind of thought. And if you're not setting, if you're not sharing what you need, then there's no way that your needs can be fulfilled or served. And after we teach people how to treat us, that the best of us, it's like, it's our responsibility to make sure that people know what we need. And if we're not able to fulfill that, if we're not able to give it to share with them what we need, then it's like, it ends up implicating us that can be part of the solution here, but we've got to be able to share what we need as a firm. And that will give that manufacturer an opportunity to solve individually, not just for the whole design community, but individually for your specific firm. So share what you need, and then and ask for what you deserve. And you'll be perhaps surprised that the manufacturers are going to show up beyond, because that's the whole reason that they're at Design Edge in the first place, is to engage firms from small to large.
Yeah, I've witnessed it. I witnessed real relationships being built at Design Edge. I've witnessed real relationships being repaired. We had an event that we did last market where we put on a meeting with some of the brands, and the designers could say what they liked, what they didn't like, and what they would like to see change in brands. And I remember a designer saying one of the brands she didn't feel was designer friendly. I brought her over. She introduced her to the brand. They had that conversation that they had some bad feelings about how they were received at High Point Market from a rep. That rep's no longer there. Things like that just like instantly happen. And then you don't know why you've lost the business. The brand doesn't know why that person never bought from them. That's not something you can quantify, or why you would never buy from them again. You know what I mean? And these are relationship issues that can be solved. I believe
that was a perfect example of that designer having the courage to share with that brand, this was a service failure and I just chose to go somewhere else, but you're here. So I took an opportunity to share the situation with you on the off chance, or maybe the strong chance, because you're here at Design Edge to see me. Maybe there's an opportunity here that we just had a miss, and I'm willing to reset. And the man gives the manufacturer an opportunity to say, I would like to hit that reset button with you and have another shot.
Right.
That's a perfect example of both risking, taking an opportunity to say, this is what I need, this is what didn't go right, and here we are with an opportunity to renew and reset.
Yes. Yeah. And I think there are two very important, new programs that you're running here. So the show in itself has the trade brands have booths, small little booths that you can go through, and you can meet the owners and senior leadership. Then you have a maker stage, and then you have an education session stage.
Okay.
And those have different kinds of content. The maker stage has sometimes content from the manufacturers. So it could be interesting information about their brand, strong storytelling, things you're going to want to participate in, because it's going to make you a better salesperson. It's going to make you understand products a lot better. And I really encourage you to participate in the maker stage. And I encourage you, the conference side, which IDC is helping with, we have some product talks and profit talks that are so important, because I know so many of you are interested in, we're going to have an attorney there who will be able to talk contracts with some of you. We're going to have some luxury designers that are going to teach you how to level up and get more money. And those high ticket clients, we're going to have the toolbox of different objects, products that you can offer in your design practice to make more money. So a lot of it is featured around and boils down to profit. But one of the interesting things we're also doing is meeting with the manufacturers. And this is not something all the designers are going to participate in, but I love that you even care on this micro level of bringing information that the designers have, because you're meeting so many designers and learning their side of this quandary, how to give that information to the designer. And we're going to talk about from marketing materials, like we hate those big catalogs of, being sent to us from major retailers, which goes right in the trash, versus all the way down to the product sitting in the client's home now, and it's been there for a few years. How is that all being serviced by the manufacturer and by the designer? And where can we together do better? Statistically, when we look at those numbers, I just believe there's so much more business that designers and brands to the trade brands can get from this whole market. And we did the math, and there are enough projects in the United States from just the top 1% of the country, based on a 7-year, which is a typical remodeling schedule, for every interior designer to have 7 projects a year from the top 1% in the country. And so I know that not all of those are going to interior designers, and not all of those are going to our favorite brands that produce amazing, incredibly high quality materials. How do we gain more of it? And I love that we're tackling that issue, which is a bigger issue, because product leads to projects. And I think that the key to that is working together. And you are honestly, this is the first design trade event that I've been to that is so laser focused on that. It's how can we gain more market share? How can we build this, work together, and how can we get more money for everybody involved? Yeah. And
I just got rising tide float all boats.
yeah.
Thanks to your help, from a conference development standpoint, it's a really strong, meaty, compelling conference roster that we have of both leading design voices in the industry, but also content that I feel proud to call it education, kind of to play on the word. But yeah, our maker stage will have programs throughout lunch on both days that are services that are must-haves, or at least must-knows for the design firms that are in attendance. On day one, we have the fortune of having a housing forecaster, that Chris Beard from the John Burns research firm. He has been at KBIS a number of times. He's going to filter his housing forecast data and information for the designer down to zip code, down to which areas of the home are expanding, which areas of the home are decreasing, which materials are being used globally and nationally more, and which are being used less, just to empower and equip designers to know what's happening kind of in the macro, so that the homeowner that's perhaps dialed into a certain extent of what's happening on a macro level across the country can kind of thread the needle of, okay, that makes sense, and I get that, because the designer is now educated and can speak in a very pragmatic, practical way globally about what's happening in the housing market to that homeowner. Is just another arrow in the quiver. As you know, a ton of great content around the business of design, and helping, as you said earlier, design firms be able to level up and optimize their time, both billing hours and efficiency of running a practice, so that the things that usually tie them down and weigh them down, they have an opportunity to have ideas on how to free up their time to bill more hours and to get back to the designing of their practice. So some great content there. Yes, the manufacturers, owners, and senior executives that are there for one reason: to engage, learn, and articulate their business around the needs of the firms. And the event is 2 days. We're 9 to 6 on day one, which is Thursday, September the 18th. And on day two, from 9 to 4, which is Friday, September the 19th. And
we're in Anaheim Convention.
At the Anaheim Convention Center, absolutely. It is an invite-only idea, but you can go to www.designedgeco.com, click on interested in attending, and Kelly McCarthy, who's our Director of Designer Engagement, will absolutely be reaching out to connect, or Courtney Dalton, another one of our supports there, because we try to make it very personal with the outreach and connection and awareness about the event. So if you haven't seen an email or been contacted by then, you will be soon. Or you could go to our website.
And I did see people register day of. So if you bring in your team and they forgot to register, don't worry. You can register right there on the floor if you have to. So that is a must. The reason that you're doing that is to make sure that this is really to the trade. We aren't getting clients and coming in for sure, to protect the brands and to protect you. But please register. And even if you aren't coming to this show, you're listening to this, put yourself on that interested list, no matter what, because then you're going to go into the list of all the designers that are interested in Design Edge, and we'll be notified when the show comes closer to you if you can't make this one. But we really do, if it is all within your means to come to Anaheim, September 18th, 19th, come join us, because this is something that we're building that is a little bit different and is geared right for you. And I think that will be well worth your time and investment to spend the time with us. So thank you, Lee. This is so great.
Right. And we must say that the price is right also. It costs you nothing.
Great.
As a designer, and we feed you breakfast, lunch, and reception on both days. There's a room block on the website if you do want to do as Laurie suggested and stay overnight, because the education is different from day 1 to day 2, and it's not to be missed. A ton of information on the website. All the brands are hot. To Laurie's point earlier, you can click on the link on the individual brands to learn more about who's going to be there. It's got the roster of all the education, and it's got all the information on how to attend. We'll be, after our Anaheim event, we'll be in the spring of next year in Florida and outside of Orlando, and then soon to come in New England and in the Midwest. So thank you so much, Laurie, for having me today.
It's been so great.
Giving me an opportunity to share my heart with all of your community and as you shepherding those folks as you have amazingly over the last 13 years now, right?
Yeah. And I do take it super seriously when I'm asking someone to spend their hard-earned dollars to come to any event. I know you're not able to build those hours, and I really take it very respectfully. And I would never ask you to do something that I didn't think was so worth it, your time. And I do believe Design Edge is. We had designers last year come to Phoenix from as far away as Maine. And one of those is that designer from Maine said she can trace back her increased productivity and her design and profitability in her design business to coming to Design Edge last year. So
that's awesome.
I love that testimony. Yes. And I believed it. And I believed it before I came that that would be what would happen, and asked people to come. And I'm glad that I did. And I think that more people should come to this one. So make sure you put this on your calendar and come visit us.
Thanks so much, Laurie. I appreciate the time and audience with your amazing.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.